Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, why am I driving a long-range rear-wheel drive car? Why didn't I buy all-wheel drive or performance? So that's what we're going to discuss in today's video. Well, much of this kind of goes back to, this is an early car. My VIN is 9,300 and something. And I'm one of the ones that stood in line initially and put down my deposit on opening day. So my deposit was placed 4 minutes into the ordering process that Tesla had, at least 4 minutes into after the doors opened in Highland Park. So I got an early car. Now, I waited years to get this car, and I got an email from Tesla that said, your car is moving toward production or whatever, and to confirm the order. And then it said, do you want long-range rear-wheel drive, or would you prefer all-wheel drive or performance? And then it was something like, it said expected delivery was November or December. Well, this car I took delivery of, I believe, was May of 2018. And so I would have had to have waited until November or December. Now, come to find out, it would have been late September, early October that they began delivering all-wheel drive cars, but they initially said it would have been like November or December. I discussed it with my wife, and we decided to go ahead or I decided, but between the two of us, to go ahead and get the rear-wheel drive car for a number of reasons. One was cost, but beyond that, there were two primary reasons. One was efficiency. Now, going back at that stage, the Model S in all-wheel drive was more efficient than the rear-wheel drive because they would bias the drive unit for just normal cruising to the front motor, which was smaller and also a newer design, so it was more efficient than the rear motor. And so the all-wheel drive Model S actually achieved better efficiency than the rear-wheel drive car. But with the Model 3, it was rumored that efficiency would go down with the all-wheel drive, which has proven to be the case. Number two was when I could get the car. And I wanted to get the car early because I needed it for my business, and which is ultimately what this car was purchased for, was my business. So I needed it for the business. Number two, as far as the timing, I wanted to start doing videos in the car, and I knew that if I got the car later, I would miss that early wave of YouTube channels starting on early cars. But that was a side thing because I had no idea what the YouTube thing was going to do. It was more just sort of icing on the cake. But the primary thing was I wanted to get the car for the business. I also wanted to make sure that I didn't want the first few miles the car ever saw to be winter. I wanted to enjoy it through a summer. So, but ultimately it has turned out to be a very wise move. Now, after the all-wheel drive cars came out and I drove one, it's a lot more torquey off the line than this car. I would say the 35 to 55 miles per hour pull feels about the same, but below 35 and above 60 for sure, the all-wheel drive non-performance car pulls stronger than this one. And I have yet to drive a Performance 3. I'm looking forward to doing that, but I have yet to drive one. Well, when those cars began coming out, there for a while I was kind of bummed. I looked into trading this car in. I called Tesla to find out what they give me for it and that. But ultimately, I'm glad I didn't do it for a bunch of reasons. Efficiency, I'm finding that this car has plenty of range for me in the summer. In the winter, it has enough range. I'll word it that way. When the weather gets cold, when it is, I don't know, let's say 10 below Celsius, which is, what would that be, 15 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit, the range suffers enough on this car that my 160 miles per day of driving, I have to be kind of careful with it. I have to charge it to 90% instead of my normal 80%, and I've got to be judicious on my use of the heat in the cabin. Oh, that was kind of cool. Witnessed the screen coming on. That's kind of cool when that happens. Anyway, I have to be a little bit cautious. I don't need to freak out about it, but need to be a little bit cautious when the weather is super cold, that I have enough range to complete my day. And it has, last winter, I think there were 2 or 3 times I had to stop at home and switch cars for my last appointment for the day. And so it's losing, let's call it 5% of my range by going with an all-wheel drive. It wouldn't kill the usability for me, but it would increase that little bit of range anxiety I have only on the coldest days. So those are all the reasons combined as to why I'm driving a long-range rear-wheel drive car. Also, what I'm finding is this car is a bit of a unicorn. I mean, this was the only car that you could get for quite some time, and yet every Model 3 I run across is either a shorter range, like the mid-range or the standard range rear-wheel drive, or it's an all-wheel drive car. And I mean, there's definite benefits to the all-wheel drive, but I find it fascinating. I don't see very many long-range rear-wheel drive cars. Oh, one other thing too is the weight savings. This car is a couple 100 pounds lighter than the all-wheel drive, and you actually do feel it in the corners. So this car, my car, for those that don't know, has been lowered 1 inch using T-Sportline 1-inch lowering springs, and I've gone to 20-inch wheels and performance tires, and they're staggered. The front wheels are the 8.5-inch width that Tesla specifies, but the rears are no longer 8.5, they're 10-inch wide at the rear. In fact, I think I could have gone wider. I think 10.5. I don't know that 11s would have fit, but there's still enough room back there for even more tire. And because I've got lower profile tires with larger wheels, and it's lowered, and performance tires, all that, this thing corners. I mean, it is awesome. And with the all-wheel drive car, I've driven a couple of them, and you can feel the weight over the front axle. You really can. So this car is more nimble on top of the other benefits that I gave. So those are my reasons behind it. And I've covered these in other videos, but I never did one succinct video on why do I have this. I did one video early on about, am I trading this car in on a Performance 3, and I explained at least a couple of these things, but that was a 1.5 years ago. And I don't know. I mean, it bears repeating because I get this question all the time. So for those of you that have been watching my channel since day one, I apologize for a repeat video, but that's that. Let's see here. It is currently Thursday of this week. The day after tomorrow, my wife and I are going to drive some EVs and plug-in hybrids and that. So that's kind of cool. We may be replacing her Ford Fusion. And that would make us essentially an all-electric or nearly all-electric family. We still have our BMW convertible that's gas only, but that's a 5-month car primarily on the weekends. That car's only going to see a few thousand miles a year. So it would be myself driving the Tesla, my son driving this little smart electric drive, and then my wife would be driving whatever other vehicle we get for the channel. If we keep her Fusion, that would only be because she loves that car. It's her car, it's her possession. She may want to keep it. But she's also talked about just room to park the cars, and if she's driving the other EV or plug-in hybrid or whatever we get for her, she would rarely ever touch her Fusion, and she may as well pass that on. So pretty much all of our driving, or we'll call it 98% of all of our miles, would be purely electric at that point. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we've done the math, and she drives enough that if we can shift 90+% of her miles to electric, that would save about half of the price of the car over the duration we would own it, because we'd be getting a used car. We're not getting a new car. And then also it would be, if I'm shooting a lot of videos with it and it's primarily for video content, then I would be deducting it as a business expense as well, on top of any revenue that it generates for the channel. So we're really excited about that. So anyway, those are my thoughts for the day. over the next few days, I'm going to be doing a video on, I've got 65,000 miles on the car. How's the interior materials holding up? There are a couple areas of wear I want to point out. Also, I want to do a video on maintenance for the car. Everything that's been done to the car and for the car over the 65,000 miles I've owned it. And maybe I'll wait for a 70,000 mile update for that. But I would like to do a wear and tear video coming up soon, because there are a couple areas in the interior that I'm noticing some wear on. And so you can keep your eyes open for those videos coming up soon. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. I appreciate all of the feedback that I get. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. And yeah, take it easy, guys. Have yourselves a wonderful day.